Welcome back, everybody, to a very fun and exciting, I'm very excited about this episode with author Paige Lavoie, author of the Mothman in Love trilogy. Paige, thanks for coming and being on the show with me.
Thanks for having me.
I'm very excited when Rob reached out and was like, do you want to talk to Paige? And I'm like, who is Paige Lavoie? And he's like, oh, she wrote the Mothman books. And I was like, oh my God. She wrote the Mothman books?
The
Because
Mothman books.
I have a friend who she's very much into like all the like conspiracies about like Mothman and like all of that stuff. And so I was like, bro, guess who I'm talking to
I'm
tonight?
like, what if we kissed Mothman? What if,
Literally. So I guess my first question would be is where where does this
yeah,
love
why?
for Mothman come from is the question.
I've always had like a deep love for monsters. And I think this comes from a couple of reasons. I am like a 90s kid, and I feel like we had the best, like spooky, but also kind of contemporary cute media. So I grew up watching things like Scooby-Doo's Ghoul School, watching the Disney Channel original movies like My Mom's Dating a Vampire and like
Oh, yeah.
all of that stuff, Halloween Town,
Yeah.
and the Bailey's School Kids, where it's what was it like Frankenstein's monster doesn't wear polka dots, and there was just
Yeah.
all sorts of stuff that we had. And I felt like as an adult, I was really missing that genre of media because it doesn't feel like it's one that scaled with us. We don't really have Lisa Frankenstein, I will say, movie wise, hit all of the boxes for me, everything I
I
needed.
I will tell you, my friend and I, because that movie came out, what, last year
I
around,
think
I
so.
think around this time, I think. And my best friend and I, we were like, I was just scrolling through and I said, bro, I said, we should go see this movie because it looks just unhinged. And we went and saw it, and I was like, this movie's a 10 out of 10 because why is it so good? Why was Cole Sprouse so good? And he
Oh my
didn't say
God.
not one word.
I loved it. I loved it so much. And that's kind of the energy that I have been shooting for with these monster romance projects, where you want it to be goofy, you want it to be a rom-com, but then have this element of paranormal monsters, magic in there. And Mothman himself, really, he it was a pandemic idea. I was stir crazy. I had this it was when cottagecore started to get really popular in a niche audience. And I had this idea of um I think I tweeted it where it was physically I'm here, emotionally I'm in a remote cabin in West Virginia nursing a wounded Mothman back to health. And it was just like a funny little riff. And then I started goofing on it of like, oh my gosh, this is going to be a book and he is going to have cute little antenna and like all sorts of stuff. And it became the thing that I wrote in the middle of the night when I was stressed out and I needed something for comfort or escapism. I was just pouring ideas into this. And I edited it and went, oh, I think this is something I'm actually going to pursue.
I love that.
Plus, he's hot. Have you seen that statue?
I'm looking at like the covers. I haven't seen the stat. You have a stat? There's a
Okay,
statue?
I don't have a statue. My mom
Oh.
thought that it was. There's like a funny side tangent. My mom didn't know that Mothman was a thing. She's not super versed in cryptids. That's fine. So she thought that I made Mothman up for this series. And so I told her this was the first time that Four Horsemen teamed up with Erie Travels and they brought my books out to the Mothman Festival. And I wasn't attending that year. I got to go last year, but I'm like, yeah, they're bringing my books to the Mothman Festival. It's really exciting chatting with her. She kind of acted a little weird on the phone, and the call ends. And then she calls me back and she goes, so tell me about this thing in West Virginia. I'm like, what do you, oh, the Mothman Festival? And she goes, yeah, for you? No, 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 it's a whole established thing. Um, yeah, so silly goofy nonsense. But yeah, it's there's two different versions that people see in like real Mothman sightings where I don't actually know that they're true sightings of the depiction of the statue or if that was really just an artistic imagining. But most of the time people see like this like fuzzy winged sort of creature. But I feel like there's always glowing red eyes. I kind of did a mishmash where I gave him a beak, but I also made him very fuzzy and like tall. And he does shapeshift. So sometimes he looks like a hot anime boy, which I love. Yep.
Okay. We love hot anime boys, okay?
hmm yep.
Yes, we do.
Well,
Okay. Ugh, Paige, I just feel like you're my new best friend. So like
good. I'm so glad. Yeah. I, gosh, the amount of Sesshomaru fanfic I wrote as a teenager. Were you an Inuyasha fan?
So when I was a kid, so like I was born in 94.
Okay. So I'm a little older than you.
Yeah, but my anime of choice, and a lot of people are very surprised by it, was Dragon Ball Z.
Oh, I loved Dragon Ball Z. Yeah. I don't know a lot about it because I feel like the most I ever watched it was on TV out of
Hmm.
order. You know what I mean? So
Yes,
you just kind of
always,
got what you got. Yeah.
always out of order. But Goku was my very first like anime crush, and like he just was everything to me all the time. It's like I just love Goku. He's just my favorite. Even though he's like a bad dad and like all that other stuff, but like even though he's like basically a POS, but like it's fine. He's still
Just that
hot.
that's we're forgiving at that impressionable age of first anime crush, you know?
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I absolutely. And I've had many, many more, not even just anime, but animated
Oh
crushes
yeah.
since then. Like Danny Phantom. I've been doing podcasts and media, like not my own, but like someone else's for like a really long time. And
Mhm.
sometimes there is the thing where it's like, yeah, the microphones weren't on literally the whole time. And it's like, oh, cool.
I
Glad we.
did I used to do YouTube for which feels like a lifetime ago. And gosh, the amount of times you would spend an hour recording something and you would go and the whole file would be corrupted, or it would
Uh-huh.
be like an audio that sounds like it's you're talking from inside of a dishwasher. It was so
Yep.
frustrating. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yes, to be a media professional is not all fun and games as everyone makes it out to be. Uh,
No.
but what do we do? Love it.
hmm Gotta keep doing it.
For
Same
what
with
reason?
writing books.
Girl, you don't gotta tell me. You don't gotta
And I,
tell me.
are you a writer too?
Yeah, I wrote a book.
Oh my gosh.
Wait,
Woo, my lonely love.
it's a poetry book.
Oh, I love poetry.
I'll have to send you one.
Yes, please. I have it, or I can buy one. Send me a link.
Okay, I
Um,
got you.
yeah. Supporting authors supporting authors. Yeah, I've never really been good at poetry. I've written song lyrics before, but um, that I guess it's kind of similar, you know.
Yeah,
But
I've
it's different though.
it's so funny because my younger sister, like anybody will tell you that I'm constantly like there's always music in my head, and like it doesn't come from anywhere. It's not from anything. She's like it's just like show tunes. Like they're
Mm.
just like dun, 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 like for literally no reason. And I'll just be doing that like all the time. And I'm like, man, it would be great if I could like get this music into something and put words to it. And
hmm
I can't do that. But like I can have the music up here, but I just can't put the words to it. So, I mean, when I was in school, I was the queen of, oh, we have to write a poem. Jonna, will you write this poem for me? Absolutely. I got you. The amount of poems I wrote for people in school.
I love that.
Because everyone, I mean, people just don't have, I mean, a lot of people just don't get it, I guess.
It can also feel embarrassing. Like I feel like
Yeah.
some people who are acting like they're too cool for poetry just don't want to have that vulnerability. Because if you
Yeah.
write something and you take such a long time on it, and people are like, "Oh, that this poem's
Hmm.
awful," or "This is silly," or "This is so emo," like that's gonna hurt your feelings.
Yeah. No, I mean, it definitely took me a long time to write. Probably like, I started it during the pandemic and I published it last year. So it was 4 years in the making. And 90% of the reason why it was 4 years in the making was because I was like, I should do this. I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna do it. I should do this. No, I'm not gonna do it. And people be like, you should do it. And I'm like, I'm gonna do it. I'm not gonna do it. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm not gonna do it.
Yeah, I understand. It can get really in your head.
Yeah, it's definitely was a mental struggle because I was like, now people are gonna be asking me questions, and I don't want to answer these questions.
I understand that because I'm in love with Mothman. I put a ton of myself into Heather, my main character, and honestly, probably more than I even realized. I knew that I wanted her to have the same chronic illness that I have. I have Hashimoto's. It affects your thyroid. I can't have gluten. I'm like fatigued a lot. And yeah, I hadn't ever seen a character that had the same chronic illness or had it even mentioned in fiction.
Hmm.
Anything I'd seen in media or books was just like how to manage it, how to cure it. Here's not cure, you can't, but you know how to
Yeah.
manage your symptoms. But yeah, so I, had a brown-haired character who wears fluffy dresses and lives in the woods. And has a chronic illness, and everyone's like, "So you just wrote you? So this is just you're like, is this a like how much of yourself did you put in there?" But my two big inspirations when I was writing her were Alexis from Schitt's Creek, and then also
Yes.
Sailor Jupiter, which is kind of a random one, but I
Yes.
wanted that sort of like uh kind of like determination of she feels like she can do anything and she can do it by herself.
Hmm.
But also that softness of like Sailor Jupiter like cooking her little bentos and all
Yeah.
that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. I could see that. Yeah. Oh, and Tuxedo Mask, also one of my favorite anime crushes too.
Oh my gosh, he is also a garbage can. If you rewatch it, you're like, ah, come
He's like the worst.
on.
What does he
Mhm.
even do? He doesn't even like actually do anything. He just shows up and is like Sailor Moon, and then he leaves. And I'm like,
Yeah.
what are you even doing? You don't even fight crime.
Nope. Just throwing some roses, being a
Yeah,
menace,
literally. I mean,
breaking
the word,
hearts.
the word men is in fact in the word menace. So like,
There you go.
that's mostly what they are. Um, but yeah, no, it's so I'm gonna have to. I'm sorry to tell you, I have not read the Mothman trilogy.
That's
So sorry.
okay. That means you have time
Um,
to discover.
I just want you to know that I'm probably when these hardcovers come out, I'm probably gonna buy them because they're gorgeous.
Thank you. So the thing about that is you can only get them through the month of February on Kickstarter. So they're not going to be available in stores. Kickstarter plug. Hey everyone. Do you like fancy books? Do you like Mothman romances? Have you ever thought to yourself, wow, I wish I could have a contemporary romance for people who love Halloween and spooky things and want to kiss a giant forest monster? So the Kickstarter launched on February 1st. We hit 50% within 24 hours, which was really incredible. So we're halfway to our goal, and the Kickstarter is funding the hardcover, like special edition hardcovers of these books. So they are going to have sprayed edges. They have redesigned covers, character cameos on the back. The artwork, I really it was so cool when Four Horsemen approached me with this idea and said, "Hey, we really want to do a special edition for your books." Um, I have had was able to do a lot of creative input and wrangle the same artist who did the character art for
Mhm.
the original books to do these cameos, and I really was hoping that they'd look like something like a royal wedding portrait because this past December, the characters got married in the third book. I'm getting married to Mothman. So it was
Mhm.
really cool to get to collaborate on something like this. And I'm really hoping it goes well. The response has been really lovely so far.
I'm literally looking at them right now and like though the one thing I love about reading is that you can just keep re-releasing books just with like different covers all the time.
People
And
do that with dust jackets too, where they're doing like exclusive
yeah,
mystery jackets. Yeah.
yeah, but the only thing for me personally with you, I'm sorry.
I think it broke up for just a second.
Okay.
And now we're back. Yeah.
Well, and we're back. Um, I love books. They're so great, and I love touching them. What I don't like is when I buy like the regular book, and then they come out with a special edition, and I'm like,
Hmm. See, so you're finding about the series at the best time because
literally,
now you can get into the special edition while it's still available. There you
yes,
go.
and
You may have
and
guessed I am very much full. I love a monster romance at any level of spice and
You're right.
appendages. Um, but I do write more of like a rom-com style book. And he is a shapeshifter. So you're getting monster and you're also getting hot anime boy. So I have been told it's like a good starter, like
Mhm.
first monster romance
Right.
sort of thing. And then as the series goes on, you get more into romantasy vibes too, because you
Mm.
get into yeah, his it was really fun because Mothman is so open. He can be whatever you sort of want. Um, and I was really worried that people who are super into Mothman would be angry that I decided to. I don't think this is a spoiler because the whole series is out, but um, if you want to skip ahead, now is the time to do so. I made him, I thought he feels so displaced in this world. He feels really lost to time. And I really wanted almost a regency energy for him. And so when designing this character, I had two ways that I might have gone with it. One of them was like a forest guardian, and the other one was a like fairy prince from this
Hmm.
realm of all of these like shape shifting creatures. Because there are so many cryptids in the world. And I thought, what if they all are from like this realm where monsters really do exist? And we have monsters and fairies and swamp people and all of this stuff. And it was so fun to like curate and figure out what all of that looked like. A couple people have said that the second book has Bridgerton vibes, which I'm so here for. Put a
We
little,
love
sweet
Bridgerton.
little, I love Bridgerton
So
so
good.
much.
So good.
Season two was it for me. I loved
Oh,
all of them, but
I felt like season three went too fast.
I have a friend who said that she really would have loved, because Penn and Colin were childhood friends, to have
Hmm.
flashbacks
Yeah.
to really build. And I thought that that was a really sweet idea, but
Yeah.
they had a lot going on. I feel like there's so many books where main characters make bad decisions, and
Hmm.
I read them and I think, yeah, no, me too. I would have.
Like,
But then
I
I'm also quite like boring. I feel like if I were in a lot of books, I probably just would be not doing much, and I'd be sitting writing my books, be like, oh, that's the what is it, the Beauty and the Beast memes that everyone's making, where it's like, you want me to live here in this house and I'm not paying rent and I have this giant library? Yeah, cool, great, sign
right.
me up. No
Lit
complaints.
That's literally me. It's like, and like the dishes wash themselves and they cook my food for me and the house cleans itself. What do you mean? Like, sign me up. You mean
Mm-hmm.
I just have to live with like a monster who just is in love with me? Okay.
Oh no, what a shame, what a horrible
How,
shame.
oh my God, it's so tragic. How someone who's in love with me? Crazy. Let him get kids. Yeah, no. I don't know. Beauty and the Beast has always been one of my favorite movies.
Yes. I was heavily inspired by Beauty and the Beast writing this, and I, just blame my parents for letting me watch it on repeat as a child because
Honestly, Beauty and the Beast slaps. It's
mhm.
still a banger to this day, and I just cry every time he gives her the library. Like every time he opens
Oh,
the door to the library, I just start sobbing. I'm like, just
yeah,
like,
it's good.
yeah. It just, I don't know. And I really liked the live action version too. With
I liked it. I feel like I had I think when I saw it in theaters, I almost like there was something about that experience. But I think there was too much auto tune. That's my controversial hot take. Just a little too much auto tune. Yeah, but it was very visually pretty.
it was beautiful. I think it was so it was so embarrassing because my boyfriend in college took me on a date to go see the movie. And like, so I was like, oh man, I'm so excited to see this movie. Me starts sobbing in the middle of the, I was like,
So, oh, I so relate to that. This was early on in my husband and I dating, and we've been married now for 13 years. And I can still remember we went to like a movie in the park at his
oh,
college campus. And I, at that point in time, pretended I was cosplaying a tough goth girl and still love goth music, still love a lot of the sensibilities of the clothing. The tough part of it, no. I have been a cupcake my whole life. I don't know why I was pretending. So um, it's up. it was up. So after I was like, yeah, I'm not like really an emotional person. I don't cry at movies, which is BS. I don't know who I was pretending to be cool for. Um, fully openly sobbing in the middle of a park with my
Mhm.
new boyfriend, now husband, next to me, just like openly weeping.
And he was
Um,
like, that was the moment I fell in love
yeah,
with her.
that was it. Yeah. No, we have there's a couple of little moments where we had a meet cute. We
Oh.
yeah, I sat on his guitar case at an open mic night where there were no seats at the in the coffee shop. And one of my
Hmm.
friends said, "Oh, you can sit here," pointed to a guitar case. I assumed it was her guitar case because she was a musician. And I sat down and she very we were just chatting. And then I see her look up and I turn around and it's the cute guy I've been checking out for months. And he very politely, because his guitar case was broken, it was duct taped together. So he asked me, he was just like sit carefully. And I didn't know what that meant. I didn't know if I should be offended. And then two seats immediately opened up. My friend who was like, you can sit on this random guitar case. She's like, oh, there are chairs over there. Let's move. I was like, oh my God, this guy's gonna hate me. So we move and we're right in front of the stage. And guess who gets on stage next? My husband.
Literally.
Literally. And the thing happened where we like locked eyes and he like
Oh,
missed a chord on the song and had to start over. And like I'm like, we're gonna get married. And then we did.
oh, I love that. That sounds like a
Yeah. I
book.
love love. I love love. I wrote it in an anthology. It's called How I Met My Other, I think. And it was just our
I love
little,
that.
yeah, it's cute.
That is so cute. OMG.
Yeah, he's nice.
He's
He's nice. I'll keep him.
I mean, it's been 13 years. I would hope that you're gonna keep
He's
him.
nice. Yeah.
He is
Swoony.
nice. Swoony.
Hmm.
I mean, obviously he's a musician.
Yeah, he had a big harmonica around his neck. It's great.
he
Suspenders and harmonica. That's all yep, my
he plays
dream.
guitar and harmonica.
Yeah.
Period. Okay. I love that. That's
Me
so
too.
cute. Your Kickstarter is at
Oh my
$13,903.
God. That's really cool. It's
Yeah.
only been 3 days. That's wild.
Yeah. So as of day of recording, we're at 13K. So that's
That's
pretty
awesome.
good.
Yeah, that's really, really
Better.
I'm hopeful. We have almost the whole month left. So I think it's gonna happen.
I also think it's gonna happen. I mean, literally it's the fourth and you're already like almost halfway, like basically halfway there. So like I
Yeah.
love it. That just shows that you have a good following, like a
I
legit
it's just
fans.
it's really just the nicest community. And I think one of the best things about this Kickstarter has been uh, a really good excuse to just everyone talk to each other. So if anyone has had a question, like people who haven't really opened dialogue with me before, and just like really, really just like chatting, and I felt the same way. Every time I have an event, everyone who shows up is just the coolest, like most creative. There was one event I did, and it wasn't for a Mothman book. It was actually the release of one of my YA novels, Our Own Little Underworld, which is a Hades and Persephone retelling. But I was doing an event at Corianders, which is this very whimsical bookstore in Michigan. And we had just like the best crowd. It was intimate, but it was like everyone at the end of it was standing in a little circle and just talking. And I'm like, are we all like trading phone numbers? Like what's got like it felt like everyone was like the end of the summer camp or something when
Yeah,
you find people that you connected with and uh it was so cool. Yeah. And I felt that every time I've had the opportunity to get somewhere in person, it's just like always the nicest people I've ever met, most creative people. And genuinely, I'm like, can I hang out with what are you doing after this? Like, yeah.
literally me. That's
Yeah.
yeah, no, that's literally me all the time. Like every person, every author that Rob has sent me to talk to, I'm like, why do all of y'all live in Florida? I just don't understand
Come
why
to
everybody has to live.
Florida.
Don't. I'll come to Florida, okay?
Yeah.
I like it down
We've
there.
we've got we've got good points. Yeah, we've got Orlando.
I've been to, so I didn't go to like Disney World, but I
Okay.
went to Uni
Universal.
Universal.
You got to get away from the theme parks are lovely. I'm not knocking them.
Hmm.
But more in like the downtown area, Winter Park, the New Romantics is the bookstore that just opened up in it's like close to Winter Park, but not quite. Um, but that area is gonna it's like the best food, the best coffee. Um, like literally it, there's so much to shop and do. We have like this gosh, this one place does like the best vegan ice cream. I can't have dairy, and it's
Hmm.
an ube soft serve.
Ooh,
Incredible. Yeah, so we just have like a lot of really good food, but a lot of treats and books.
look, I love a good treat and books. So I don't know if it was. I'm trying to think. So last year, I think I got one of my friends back into reading, and I've just I've gotten two of my friends back into reading, and now they're like, Jonathan, do you maybe want to go to Half Price Books? And I'm like, why are you even asking me that?
Yeah, of
Like,
course.
is that a question? Like, of course I want to go to Half Price
When will
Books.
you be here?
Like, what are you talking about? I was supposed to go on Sunday, but my friend was like, yeah, I'm not leaving the house. And I was like, that's fine. I actually don't need to
Yeah.
spend any more money on books considering I bought like 11 books in the month of January, but that's neither here
Yeah.
nor there. Um,
Yeah, it
but
doesn't count.
it's February now, so like that's over. Like
Yeah.
that money's gone. But one of my friends that I also work with, we have started taking like weekend trips to bookstores
Love that.
that like are so like we're in Indiana, so we went to we went to a Half Price Books in Ohio. And I've been to a couple of bookstores up in Michigan. And then last year I did a lot of like traveling. So I went to Portland in
Nice.
July, and I went to they have like the biggest independently owned bookstore like in the US. It's called Powell's.
Powell's. Yeah, I was
Yeah.
on the they had a monster romance summer. It was like hot monster summer or something.
Period.
And they had my book on the end cap and that felt like such a dream come true. Like
Nice.
I was like in Powell's. Like it
Oh
was
God.
so cool. Yeah.
I
And I was
literally I wanted to live there. I was like,
yeah,
I
it's great.
it so I went there, and then like we went to a couple of other like little shops that we just like we were just driving around. I was like, there's a bookstore. They were like, okay, why don't you calm down? And I was like, I can't, there's a bookstore, we have to go. I have to see every single bookstore in
Have to see
Portland.
every we did that so for the release of I'm Engaged to Mothman, my friend Megan and I did our books and bagels tour
Love it.
because we had the release party at the Ripped Bodice in New York, which was so much fun.
I want to
I
go there
love the
so bad.
it's so good. It's so good. I still haven't been to their flagship in LA. I really want to go.
We
But the
should meet
Brooklyn
out there and
store,
go.
right? Let's do it. I gosh, I'm like mentally being like, when can I do it? And as if I haven't like overscheduled myself with events this year. But you know, what's one more bookstore? It's fine. It's fine.
Literally.
But yeah, so we celebrated the release of the second book in New York, which was so dreamy. And it was around the same time that the new Ripped Bodice location had opened. So, like, getting to see that in person, everyone was so nice. Someone cosplayed Heather from my books, which was really cool to see. But we just spent the weekend there and we found as many gluten-free bagels as we could, which were just like top tier. And then went to every bookstore in like in the area, and it
Yep.
was the best trip.
Yeah, no, my book trips are now whenever me and my friend are going somewhere, because we also went to Baltimore in the same year in October, and we had like we stayed an extra day. Um, After the event that we had went to, we stayed an extra day, and she was like, "Well, I mean, we got a whole extra day. We can find some bookstores around here." And I was like, "Well, if you insist."
I mean, yeah, if we and we didn't. There was one on Google that was a store that literally had it was pickles and books, and that's all they sold. And we didn't make it to that one. And now I'm like, well, we got to go back for pickles and books.
Pickles
Like,
and books.
yeah, yeah,
That's like one food I wouldn't eat while I was reading a book.
no.
Like unless I was eating it with like a fork or something. Like
I mean,
I
yeah, I'm a coward. I can't do that.
literally like honestly, I barely even want to like eat when I'm reading. Like
No, I
I have to be
know.
reading on like my Kindle or my phone if I'm gonna eat. If I'm
Are
reading like
you,
a physical book, I
you
can't
do
eat.
audio?
Yes.
Yeah, I've just this year, one of my goals was to become an audiobook person. Um, so that's something where the amount of multitasking you can do is kind of incredible. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, I can just like have this on while I'm walking or like,
Uh-huh.
yeah, it's really or doing dishes or but I feel like I get sucked in and then I'll just stop doing whatever I'm doing and just like
Uh-huh.
listen. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah, the amount of the one of the last jobs that I had, um, I would lit because like our desks were like 6 feet apart because of the pandemic, and so and we
Mhm.
were just like scanning paper all day, so we couldn't really talk to each other anyway because we were so far apart, and so
Little earbud.
um, I had my earbuds in and I started listening to audiobooks, and like sometimes you're at work and you're like, and the book gets to like a spicy scene, and you're like,
Yes, I worked at a vintage store and I would, if we were really slow and I had everything done, I would sit behind the counter and read. And there
mm-hmm,
were a couple times that scenes I got to, like I'm like customers coming in, I swear my face was like beet red. And I'm like,
literally.
hello, welcome.
Literally me. Yeah. Yeah. No. And that's at my job that I have now, processing mail. Like I'll be listening to a book and like just processing mail, just minding my business. And then it'll get all spicy. And then some random person will come into my office. They're like, hey, and I'm like, hey, what's up? How's it going? How's it going? Literally like just praying that my headphones don't disconnect for some reason so they don't hear what's going on.
It reminds me of an embarrassing story, and I'm weighing out how embarrassing it was. But yeah, do you have any? All right, so do you like Baldur's Gate?
I don't know what that
Okay,
is.
so it's a video game, and it's a video game that has romance in it. So it's in
Okay.
like the D&D universe, and there's a character that is a vampire, and everyone is obsessed with him. And so he has like silver hair and like red eyes, and um, anyway, there was this playlist, and it was little snippets of audio from the game where he's saying like very sexy things, and then it was
Mm-hmm.
in music, but the thumbnail for this was like him like sort of in like a crawling position over the your like original character. And
Mm-hmm.
I didn't realize that I hadn't switched tabs, and that was like big on my laptop screen in a coffee shop. And I like went to go get like sugar or something like that. And I fully walk away from my computer. My friend's there. So it's not like I can just leave my laptop. But the ladies who were behind me, who were just like very like smartly dressed, looked like they were probably having some sort of like interview or like Bible study. I'm not sure. But they were looking at my computer like, what? What is, and then she looked at me like I was a heathen. And I'm like, I don't know how to, I'm not, I just didn't even look. I went, oh,
She
no.
said, I can't even explain this away, so I'm just gonna act like it's not
Like,
happening.
do you play the award-winning game Baldur's Gate, ma'am? Because
While I'm watching
probably,
Murder
yeah.
She Wrote, like just like yes, I do be watching Murder She Wrote. Thank you very much.
I I love that. I love that.
I am secretly an old lady at heart.
Angela Lansbury is a treasure,
She's
and
a queen,
as you should. Yeah, we talked about Beauty and the Beast. You're just watching Mrs. Potts solve mysteries.
literally, with
Love
no
that.
English accent though. It's a little stressful because she doesn't have an English accent. I was like, what do you mean?
Oh, I haven't seen Murder She Wrote since I was a kid, so I got to rewatch.
Yeah, no. I think who was I talking to? I was talking to someone and they were like, yeah, like the first season, like she didn't even like try and like she tried a little bit to cover up her accent, but like she really couldn't do it. And then like as the season like went on, like the series went on, like it got better. But like there's some times where I'll hear her like slip it back into her. I'm like, Angela.
She's in the really old version of a Portrait of Dorian Gray too. I'm
Really?
pretty sure. I think she plays Sybil Vane in that. And there's a song she I it was like a hyper fixation for a minute where I just listened to her sing uh mm, like the it's a song about a bird. I can't remember and but she is like the showgirl and she looks gorgeous.
I'm gonna look it up. Angela.
Angela
R.I.P. Angela
Lansbury.
Lansbury. R.I.P.
I
I
know.
also was just in half price books because my friend that I got back into reading, I leave Murder She Wrote on for my cats. I used to leave Matlock on, now I leave Murder She Wrote on. Um and so I leave that on sometimes and my friend will come over here and like we'll just sit on the couch, just be chilling. And I'll just have Murder She Wrote on because like that it's just background noise, right?
Mhm.
And I'll just be like reading on my book or whatever. Like I'll be reading and then like just have it on in the background. My friend's like actually watching it, and she's like, "John, oh my god." She's like, "Are you seeing what's going on?" I'm like, and my friend's 25, right? So like she is like a whole new world to her. She's like, "I love this. This is
Love
so
that.
good." Blah blah blah. And I was like, "Okay, bro, chill out." So I was at Half Price Books the other day, and somebody wrote a like newer version of Murder She Wrote, and it's like
Oh,
Jessica's niece who's in Cabot Cove, like solving mysteries.
that's cute.
And I was like, and luckily enough, they had two copies. So I bought one for me and bought one for my friend, and then I gave it to her, and she was like, I was like, I know,
That's
I'm
cute.
great, thanks, thanks. And so she like wants to. She was like, "Are we gonna read this for book club?" And I was like, "I don't know." What we didn't. We're not reading it for book club. We're supposed to be reading Phantasma right now because that was my pick for the month was Phantasma, and we're 4 days into the month, and I have yet to actually crack open that book.
You got time. It's all right.
I
Yeah.
know. Is it Little Yellow Bird?
Yes, that's it.
Yes, that's.
Yeah, it's really good.
I just love Angela Lansbury.
Me too. A
She's just the
treasure.
best. I know. And since I've been watching Murder She Wrote, I didn't realize like how many episodes that Jerry Orbach was in.
I don't
Who,
know.
if you don't know who Jerry Orbach is,
I
excuse me,
don't.
he
I
he is the
know.
voice of Lumiere in Beauty and the Beast. Yeah.
Love
But also for my Law and Order fans out there, because Jana loves Law and Order also.
that.
He is officer or no, Detective Lenny Briscoe in Law and Order. And he also was Baby's father in Dirty Dancing.
Uh,
Don't ask me why I know all of that stuff.
I I appreciate the knowledge, the lore drop. Yeah.
I I just have again, it's like a hyperfixation. Like I see someone's like, oh, I'm like that's such and such from such and such, and they were also in such and such. It's just like a whole.
Yeah, yeah.
It's I just have to know everything all the time.
I mean, why not?
Yeah. And it's mostly actors and movies and things. And I'm always telling my friend who's 25 and my other friend who's 23, I'll be like, yeah, don't you know about this? And they're like, no. And I'm like, okay.
There was a meme going around where a bunch of people were like, I didn't know that Beyonce was ever like in a girl group. And then the reply was just like, oh, we're all getting up there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, no. When TikTok first became like a big thing, and the guy who was like, yeah, did you guys know that Justin Timberlake used to be in a group called NSYNC? And I was like, what did you say? I was like, it's in sync. Why did you spell it like that? I don't like this. I
This
hate
is
it here.
funny.
I
That's so
hate it
funny.
here. And they're like, no skinny jeans and no middle parts. First of all, I got a big forehead, so I can't have a middle part anyway. But you cannot take my skinny jeans from me.
I don't like fabric around my knees, which might sound like I want loose pants. And so like leggings and anything.
Hmm.
So skinny jeans, I wore them uh when I was younger, but they always like just bothered me. But I did
Hmm.
it for the vibe. So I don't know. I'm mostly like dresses or just like big flowy pants.
Ooh, I love a good pair of flowy pants
Yeah,
though.
yeah.
Like, I just feel like I'm tall, but like I don't have very long legs, so I
Same.
feel
I
like
mean, I'm not tall.
I would just feel like I look like really some like short when I wear like flowy pants. I'm just like, guys, I'm actually 5'10"
I've
if you
just
wanted to know.
I've just embraced I'm 5'4" and I'm like, you
Aw.
know what? It's okay if I look short. It's fine. I am short. It's fine.
You said you wrote Mothman during you wrote the first book during the pandemic, or did you write all the books?
I wrote the first book during the pandemic, and then it was this is my first ever series. So I then was in this interesting position where I'm like, okay, where does the arc go?
Hmm.
If I'm going to make this go 3 books, what's the pacing going to be like? Where do I see them growing as a couple, as individual characters? And so over the past, I want to say 2 years, I've written the sequel and the conclusion of the book. And it's just been like it's been really fun getting to know them and like now it's like bittersweet closing the chapter, but the next book that I'm releasing does have like a slight spin-off. So it's a character that you meet in the third book, and then he's getting his own love story, and I'm
Ooh,
really excited. Yeah, he's cute.
ooh, we love the tea. We love
Yeah.
the tea. Okay, well that answers my question of what you're currently working on. You're working on a
Yes.
spin-off
I'm
of Mothman.
working. Oh my goodness. It's been so much fun. It's new for me because this trope is I'm doing childhood friends to lovers.
Oh,
So like I love it, but I've never done it before. So
mhm.
it's a new dynamic for me. So it's been really fun getting to explore. I'm very much like a grumpy sunshine. Although around Little Underworld and that one is very sunshine, sunshine. They're both just cuties.
Yeah.
And so it's a different character dynamic and voice though from jumping into the Mothman and Love series to this new character. Um, I feel like they feel very sweet. It feels young. It feels summertime. And I keep comparing it to the camping episode of Bluey. If you are a Bluey fan,
We love
basically that
Bluey.
love Bluey. Um, but that idea of like meeting when you're younger and then reconnecting as adults
Hmm.
and stuff and having some sort of special bond or wondering what happened to that person for
Hmm.
such a long time ago. Yeah. So it's just been I'm in I think I'm hoping my last pass of editing. I really love it. I feel like there's a moment in a draft when it all kind of clicks into place and it starts really playing in my head like a movie where I'm like,
Hmm.
okay, this it's I heard someone say something in about acting that felt really similar where it's like whenever it starts to not feel like a lie anymore, you know that you're getting close to being
Hmm.
done or something.
Yeah.
And yeah, and so it's all finally feeling really right, so that's making me just really excited to get released to it. And I've
Oh.
also been doodling them a bunch too, which is
Ooh.
fun. Yeah.
So you're in love with it.
I'm
I love
really
it.
really digging it. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. Honestly, that's like I think that's why I like to, besides being an author myself, I like to talk to other authors because like you can just tell how much they love it. Like you can just tell how
Yeah,
much
it's
like
definitely
yeah, like heart and soul. Like they just are literally putting their whole heart into it and they're just like, I love it so much.
it's a compulsion too. Like there was one of the last podcasts I did, it was that sort of like the why question of like why did you get into writing? What made you
Hmm.
know that you wanted to be an author? And I'm like, I just can't imagine a world in which I wasn't scribbling down ideas, you know?
Hmm.
And it's cool for this next monster romance too. It is a stretch goal on the Kickstarter where if we hit above our target, one of the rewards that everyone can unlock is a preview of this next book. So
Ooh.
yeah, which is really exciting. I was very like trying to figure out as many ways that I like as the author of the series could like add something special
Mhm.
to say thank you to everyone who decides to back it. So they put that as one of the stretch goals. And if we hit that, I'd just be really excited to share it early with everybody.
Ooh, I love that. So is this book just going to be a standalone, or are you also going to have it in a series?
It's going to be like you've probably seen the romances where the characters interconnect in some way, but they're
Yeah.
all standalones. Yeah, I think Well Met does that like really well, where it's like the sister's romance and then the other sister,
Yeah.
and then kind of
Yeah, yeah,
so we have um the first one, and then someone you meet in that book will be getting their story, and then someone you meet in that book will be getting their story. So they're all going
Gotcha,
to
gotcha,
be
gotcha.
interconnected, and they'll probably all have cameos. But it's going to be, as far as like the pacing of each romance, all standalones, which I'm really excited to do.
Yeah. So you'll just have a bunch of like one-offs kind of instead of like
Yeah.
continuing like two character story like you did with Mothman. Like you get to
Yes.
get into different characters' heads for each book.
Yeah, and I have the next two sort of skeleton drafted, where
Nice.
the next one I'm fully in editing and revisions on one, and then the other two I'm like dumping ideas and quotes and snippets into, which is
Hmm.
normally how that's been my method for staying focused, because I feel like as authors we have a million ideas all at once and we want to do the shiny new thing. So I just anytime that I would be scrolling on my phone, I'm allowed to work on anything that isn't my current project, is how I've been framing it. So it's like if I'm about to open Instagram and just sort of like doom scroll,
Hmm.
I can be like, okay, do I want to do this, or do I want to go work on the gargoyle project that's like way on the back burner, or like this fantasy novel I've been playing with, or I have like so many little things. And like I think it's important to like remember that we do this because we love it. And
Hmm.
even when it does become like your job and you have deadlines and people sort of depending on getting certain things in a timely fashion, you still want to let yourself play, and that's been really
Hmm.
important.
Yeah, I know. I think I read something somewhere that was like, um, gosh, I can't remember how they phrased it, but it was like, don't, if you want to write, don't write for other people, write for
Mhm.
yourself.
Yeah, it's hard
Huh?
to keep that in mind, especially with like a series. I really struggled with that in writing the first the second and the third book, because especially with the third book I really didn't want to let people down. So
Mhm.
whenever I had that first round of arcs that went out and I started to get the feedback of like, oh, I loved this ending, or their wedding vows were so sweet, or I really like just positive things of the character journey felt like it had the payoff that they'd been hoping for.
Yeah.
Such a relief, and it felt good because it was the ending I wanted for the characters. But as you put things out and things sort of get their own life, you don't know what the response is going to be. So it was a relief, and also just really nice. I've said it I think before, but I love my community so much, and they're really incredible.
Yeah, and it's so like monster romance girlies, like romance is its own thing, and then you go down to like monster romances, and then you go down to like a specific monster romance, and then like your circle just gets like, and
It
Mothman is
does.
a very like neat niche.
Yeah, I feel
I don't
like
know.
I've really found my home in the monster romance, and then also the romantasy,
Hmm.
where I think because of the way that the series builds, and it's like cottagecore vibes to royal core vibes, to this sort of like, oh no, I've been kidnapped by a vampire and now I'm like kind of having a Rapunzel moment in a tower while my
Hmm.
cryptid fiance is looking for me. Um, so we have like this contemporary feeling with like these tropes that we know and love, and these tropes that ways that I hope will feel like refreshing to people.
Hmm.
But yeah, I think because of the way that series built where you have the paranormal, you have the monster, and then you have this fantasy edge. It's brought in like this really awesome group of readers that is just like they're so fun. And I've said it a million times, but like I've just I'm always like just floored by like everyone's creativity, especially if you go to events like Books, Gowns, and Crowns, or here in Florida, we have the Alexia events where they do these big bookish balls. And you see like the costumes, the artistry, the artwork that people create. And it's just like, I often have these moments where I'm in these circles, and this happened at the Mothman festival as well, where I'm just like, you have like this really strong sense of belonging, but then you also are just like so amazed by the level of like talent and passion and enthusiasm of everyone around you. And it's really, I, it makes you feel like just really connected. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It definitely, I will say that it really makes you feel like you're not by yourself when you're doing things.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
it's like, oh, I'm not the only one who feels like I shouldn't be doing what I'm doing. Like I'm not the only one suffering from imposter syndrome when it comes to
Yeah.
publishing and writing and all of that stuff. So like it's actually really, and honestly doing this for me has been really helpful too because I'm like, okay, so I'm not the only one who's like, what the fuck's going on, you know?
No, not at all. Yeah. It's writing is hard. It's
Girl.
vulnerable, it's hard.
Hmm.
There's so much overthinking. And then sometimes like you do it not necessarily wrong, but I've definitely had moments. I have a 1950s space road trip romance, Dear Galaxy, which released, I want to say 2 years ago now, and it's like very campy, very sci-fi, very YA. I wrote that novel wrong twice before I got the draft that I really wanted, and I think it's just sometimes you have to like tell yourself the story to know and like it wasn't bad but just wasn't what it wasn't the original concept, and sometimes that can be okay if you sort of like pants a draft and it's totally different and you're like, oh, but this is better. And sometimes you do that and you kind of veer off and it goes in all sorts of directions, and you sit and you look at it and you're like, well, I learned a lot about the characters and I learned a lot about what
Hmm.
I want, and now let's do it all over again. And that
Yeah.
can be hard too when you're on a deadline. You're like, okay, I need to do this right the first time. Let's plot. Let's get the note cards out. Let's get the post-its.
Yeah. And I'm a big pantser when it comes to
Me
writing.
too.
And that's a lot of where when I get stuck, I'm like, I don't know where I'm gonna plan to next. Because,
Yeah, yeah,
you just have that idea and you're like, this will be great. And then you just start putting things down on paper, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh shit, I actually need like a plot and like character development and like all of this other stuff. And then you're like, okay, wait.
yeah. I've been doing this thing where I basically write an extended version of the blurb. So it's kind of like a synopsis, but it's never quite as detailed as a synopsis because I don't know every single thing. And then that will be my like guidelines. And then I'll go through and I'll write as much of like the beats as I know I want to happen, but then give myself like it's like you're literally laying out like some bones and then you have to like
Mhm.
kind of fill it in. And sometimes that works and sometimes I need more freedom. For I'm engaged to Mothman, I did that and it just wasn't, something wasn't clicking. I went, what's going on here? And I realized it's I didn't give her enough friends.
Ah,
There wasn't, she didn't really have those like guides to being in a new world. So that was a really fun way to get to introduce like cool new characters. We have Moth's ex betrothed, ex fiance, and uh, and then an ex boyfriend, and then another ex, and I just that became like the funniest goof because they all really love and care for him, and the romantic relationships were never very serious, so they all like just become friends. It becomes this really unexpected found family with a continued goof of like, we yes, that passionate night we spent one summer ago, and like he doesn't remember anything, so he's just like it
he's like,
was
yeah,
funny. I liked it.
he's like, yeah, that was fun for me too.
Yeah, great, cool. Yeah. Well, he's very That's the thing about them is even when she has little like moments of jealousy or he has really like a moment of jealousy, you can tell they're just so committed to each other throughout the whole
Mhm.
book. Like that's their like they've found their person. That she
Yeah.
has her moth, he has his flame, and they're set, you know.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah, that's as I mean, I mainly read romance books. Just because who doesn't love a good happily ever after, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Um, but I heard it in a podcast that I read a podcast that I read that I listened to.
I read my podcast all the time. What do you mean?
Aren't books just long aren't they just written podcasts?
I mean, you know what? You could actually, no, I have read podcasts. I have read transcriptions of podcasts because I knew I wouldn't have time to listen to them and I would read it faster. So, and also people probably for accessibility read podcasts all the time. So this is a real
I know.
thing. Yeah.
Okay.
The more you know.
Um but they said that in romances, like the female main characters, like they never have any friends.
Yeah, that can
And I,
happen. It's your one best friend that you see in the first
uh-huh.
chapter and then goes away forever.
Yeah, literally. Or they like just come in like sporadically in there, and I'm just
Mhm.
like, man, that sucks. So when when I try and deviate from my poetry writing and write like a little cute romance or whatever, I'm like, I gotta make sure I give her more than one friend.
I am having the best time with this draft I'm on right now, where her best friend is her grandma.
Yes,
So it's
we
just
love it.
like wild, sassy, like poker club, like doing parkour around her kitchen, and she's just like, Grams, please, Grams, stop.
Stop, Grandma.
You're hip, please.
Grandmas don't care about stuff like that.
No,
Why would they do
my grandma
such a
actually
thing?
was a huge romance reader. Yeah.
You know, my actually, you know what? I never really saw my grandma actually like read any books. Um, I'm really more of like the
The reader of the
legitimate
family.
reader. Yeah, like my mom and my older sister did it for a while. Like they got me into it, and then like I just took off from there. And like like everyone else, like they'll read like sporadically, but like I'm the only one who's like, yeah, I read like 30 books this year. And they're like, that's a lot. And I was like, is it? I know some people who read like 100, which is
100, 200.
crazy.
Yeah.
I'm like, how do you read 100 books? That's
I think
crap.
I read my own book 30 times last year from reading. Sometimes it's like that.
Yeah, it do be like that. Yeah,
Line edits, you're just,
the amount of times I read my book, I was like, I think I might hate this, honestly.
it's a process. It happens. Yeah. Like, I've been looking at this chapter for 10 days. I never want to see it again. But then you're like, oh,
Yeah.
I love this chapter. This was so easy to write. That's me. I always forget that books are hard. And then they come out and I'm like, I feel like this was really seamless.
It's because you're blocking out all the trauma that happened while you were writing the
I
book.
do honestly, I love drafting, I love editing, and I love revisions. I love different parts of the process for different reasons. But that doesn't mean that those parts don't get really frustrating. So it's
Yeah.
like I think I always remember I'm like, oh well, my favorite thing is revisions. It's not. My favorite thing is drafting. It's not. My favorite, I just love them all at different times. Yeah.
She's like, I love it all. Sometimes.
I love it all unless I don't. But no, for the most part, I really do.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. It's a process trying to, because you got to write it, then you have to read it 500 times.
Mhm.
And then you're like,
Yeah.
okay, it's ready for the world. And then there's still a fuck up in there somewhere.
My God, I know. And you know what? The thing is with typos, I feel like I'm predestined for them because my name has a typo in it. My middle name was supposed to be Alyssa, and it's not. My mom wrote it wrong on and so my middle name is Alicia. You heard it here first. And they just went with it. They decided to go with it. So I'm typo is in my blood. Typo is by birth. And that's just it's a curse that I was bestowed. The
Paige,
curse of the
that's
Alicia.
cute. Paige
Yeah.
Alicia. That's
Yeah. Paige
cute.
Alicia. Now I feel like I'm in trouble though. You saying you used to
I know, that's just like my mom. Jonah Gabrielle. I wasn't me. I did not do nothing. Don't ask
No.
me questions. I didn't do anything. It's so funny that your middle name's Alicia because my older sister's name is Alicia,
Okay, and
and
see,
people they call her Alicia all the time. They're like Alicia, and I'm like,
my dentist called me Alicia for about 2 years, and she was so nice that I didn't correct her. It was like their paperwork was like swapped, and then she read it wrong. Where she and like there was this moment she came in and she was like, "Your first name is Paige." I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, it is."
yeah, no,
Like you
yeah,
can call me whatever you want, beautiful dentist. It's fine.
yeah, no. There's someone like that at one of my jobs. I love her. She's so great. She has so much like great energy, and I always like casually will just be like, oh, people be like Jonah this, Jonah that, blah blah blah, and she'll just be like, Jonah, I just love you so much, and I'm like, all right.
Oh, no.
And I just be trying, but I love her so much. I'm just like, you know what? It's fine.
Yeah.
I can't.
No.
It's
There's
fine.
yeah, when I worked at Universal for a while and one of the security guards called me Peggy and it became my personality when I worked there. I got a mug that said Peggy on it. It was my favorite thing. And she'd be like, Peggy, and I'm like, hey, that's me. That's me. I'm Peggy.
Felt. Been there. Yep. It's always a thing. Yeah, for me, it's Jonah. They're like, Jonah.
Mm.
I'm like, yep, that's me.
No, it's not. No,
It's
it's
not
not.
me, but like, and I have a friend named Courtney, and it's spelled Kertney. And the amount of times, like, if we're together somewhere, and they'll be like, we'll be at Starbucks, and they'll call out Jonah. I'm like, that's me, and they'll be like, Courtney. She's like, that's me.
You just have secret identities in the world, you know?
Literally. And my friend Gail, her name is spelled Gayle. And so I went to Starbucks to pick up her order one day, and when I got to her house, I said, they called you Gailey.
Haley. Yeah, I see that. I was trying to mentally think when you spelled it how that would be pronounced wrong, and that's it.
Gailey. I was sobbing. And then she told me one day she went in there and they just said gal. They're
Yeah,
like, gal. I
man.
was
And
like,
now they type in the names and we don't get any goofs anymore.
sometimes I mean, it depends on if I like have my app pulled up fast enough or
Oh,
not.
okay. Yeah.
So like, or like if I order through the drive-through and they ask me, they're like, "Oh, what's your name?" She's like, "Jonah." I'm like, "Okay." I've seen my name
Yeah.
spelled so many ridiculous ways.
There was the so we're just talking about coffee now. There was an abbreviation for coffee where it was like a large oat latte something something. Swear. I have a picture of it somewhere. It looked like they just wrote loser on my mug. And I was walking and I looked down at it and I went, what? What? I had, to, I had to figure it out. I had to figure it out.
That's okay.
Those are regular there too. I was like,
I get
what do
it.
you mean?
No, I get that. 100%. 100%. I know. My favorite thing is when I used to work at Lovesac, I would go to the Starbucks that was like in the mall where the Lovesac was, and I would go there before I went to work. And like if I didn't pre-order on the app, like I would have to go in and order it, obviously. So I would like go in, and they knew me in there, even though I would just come in there and grab my cup and go. That I would go in there and they'd be like, "Hey, Jonna," and I'm like, "Hey, what's up?" And then they'll be like, or if they like didn't know me, someone there did know me, and they were like, "Oh," they were like, "What's your name, Jonna?" And then someone would be like, "This is how you spell her name." And then like I get my cup with my name on it spelled correctly. I'm like, I love being a regular.
That's good. It's nice.
So fun. I know. Um, I know. And the funny thing about Portland, which I didn't well, I know like, Seattle is like where Starbucks started, right?
Yes.
Um, while I was in Portland, every single place was like this and a coffee shop.
Mm,
It was like, get your tires changed, cafe. And I was like, what do you mean? I was like, what do you mean?
sounds good to me.
I'm like, okay, I guess I'll have a latte while I'm getting my tires rotated or something. Like that's
Yeah,
what's going
yeah,
on. Like
the
it,
dream.
I mean, just coffee shops, just like on like on every corner and in the middle of the street. It was just
Oh.
freaking nuts. I was like, I never had so much caffeine in my life when I was in Portland. I was in Portland for like 5 days. I was wired,
The most awake you've ever been in Portland.
literally the most awake I'd ever been. Um, but it was so fun. I want to go back. I want to move there.
Yeah, I loved Portland. I've been there once and it was great.
Do you have, with all of this fun writing that you're doing, do you actually have time to read books?
I that has been a challenge. That's one of the reasons one of my goals has been to be an audiobook queen
Mhm.
this year. So right now I'm listening to a novel love story by Ashley Preston, and I am obsessed with her. Her writing is so wonderful. I loved The Dead Romantics. She has a really unique voice.
I
And
have
I'm
that book.
yeah, it's great. And yeah, so I'm really enjoying. I think I'm about four chapters in right now, and it's already been great. I love it, and the narration is really good too. Where I'm really picky with voices, so it's been a really good, easy listen. And then you can also get audiobooks from the library as well.
Yeah, I try to do that, but like honestly, the wait list on some of the books are
Mhm.
nuts.
That can happen. Yeah.
Yeah.
See,
It's
my
like,
TBR is just so big that I don't mind being on
girl,
a wait list because I'm like, whatever comes in first is that's great for me.
yeah, nah, for real. Because it's just kind of like, and then I'll be like, oh, you're off the wait list. I'm like, damn, I forgot I was even waiting on something. Like
Yeah, but
it's a
I
surprise.
do I do try to make sure that I'm like reading pretty regularly because I think that reading books that you really love helps you to write books that you really love. Like
Yeah.
just and gosh, there's just so many good books out there too. Like I think we all probably get into storytelling because we love reading stories and writing stories, and that's something that I think um is we get so busy where that can be one of the first things that kind of gets like lost, like where you're like, oh, I haven't been reading as much as I normally do. So finding different ways, like I have a Kindle, I've got
Mhm.
audiobooks, and I think just sometimes you're in the mood to do like, okay, I want to like touch paper, I want to read something
Mhm.
physical, I want to listen to something. But the next audiobook that I think I'm interested in checking out is well, I cannot remember the name of the author, but I know it's called Lights Out. But it's because I kept hearing clips on TikTok where
Oh yeah. What is that?
it looks really interesting. I saw it at Barnes and Noble, and it's a dark romance, but I do believe they're
Hmm.
like role playing it, where he's like on like mask like talk, and
Yeah.
they play a little cat and mouse game, to my
Nev
understanding.
Navessa Allen.
Okay, yeah, it
That's
looks
her name.
great, and the audio sounds wonderful. So
Yeah.
I'm interested to check it out. I haven't really I'm more of a bright sunny sort of reader. So I haven't gotten into much dark romance, but this sounds like it's going to hit spots for me that
Hmm.
with it sounds like they're entering an agreement together before the cat and mouse games begin. So I'm interested to
Yeah.
see how that goes.
What books or authors would you recommend other people read? Obviously, besides you.
Ooh. Besides me, yeah.
Besides
Well,
you.
yes, this Kickstarter that's happening. No, besides me and all of the fun stuff I have going on, I think that if you're looking to get into monster romance, I love Lillian Lark. My favorite of hers is Deceived by the Gargoyles. I think it's wonderful. Her main character is really relatable, and it's just got a lot of heart and a lot of different dynamics in it that I thought were really just it was great. Um, I think if you're looking for fantasy, Holly Black, you cannot go wrong with. I think the Cruel Prince series is so good.
I have
Um,
those.
oh, her writing is so lush. And she's such a inspiration. She's such a good speaker. And those are my two very favorites. I'm a big Allie Hazelwood fan. I think that she writes just really fun romantic
Hmm.
hijinks, and I love all the tropes and stuff. And
Yeah.
yeah, so those are my some of my favorite recommendations.
I love that. Um, we'll do Mothman. if you had unlimited budget for a
Oh,
Mothman movie or TV show, whichever you prefer,
ooh.
who would you have play your main characters?
I would have I think I would like Lee Pace to be Moth. I think he's so tall. He has that deep voice. I could definitely see it. I struggle with Heather. I feel like it could go so many different directions and um I would want them to someone recently said Sabrina Carpenter, which I thought was really cute. Like,
I
but
love Sabrina Carpenter.
yeah, but then I also feel like this is such a I feel like cop out answer, but like an unknown or smaller actress that's a little more comparable to the age of like Lee Pace, because like you wouldn't want it to be like someone in their 40s and someone who's 18, you know.
How old is
Uh,
Lee Pace?
I think he's in his 40s now, isn't he?
I don't know.
I mean, he's older than me and I'm 35. So I feel
Are you
like that man,
actually?
yeah,
You just look like a little baby.
thank you. It's I do face masks all the time, and
Okay, period.
my camera is blurry. But um, I'm 35 tomorrow. Tomorrow's my birthday.
Oh my God, happy birthday
Thank
tomorrow.
you. But
He's
yeah,
45.
he's 45. He's 10 years older than me. There we go. Yeah. So I'm there's like a I need to like make a blog post about this with all the different actors that I feel like would be great. I know if anyone is a fan of Dropout, it's like a independent like network that does a lot of programming with like comedy and stuff. Brennan Lee Mulligan is who I would want to play Chris, who is the antagonist. He's the monster hunter. He's kind of like the Gaston character. And I think he would like knock that out of the park. He does so many like villain monologues on all the D&D shows and stuff. And like I think
Love.
that there's like that sort of like trusting boy next door turned villain that he would pull off so well. Um, and I think that that's like kind of the three that really jump out. I didn't really cast Heather. I mean, let's go the actress, God, what's her name? Annie, who was uh in Schitt's Creek, Alexis in Schitt's Creek, because that was the one of
Oh
the
yeah, yeah.
big
I don't know her.
inspirations.
I don't
Yeah.
know her name, but like I know who
I'm
you're talking
I'm
about.
I'm struggling. She's so good too. She did that
Yeah,
that there was a show that was like a play on a sitcom that she did recently, and I'm struggling to remember anything. But I
relatable.
think she would be so fun. Let's have her. Let's have Lee Pace. Let's have Brendan Lee Mulligan, and it would just
Period.
be a wild little cast. Let's film it in Point Pleasant, West Virginia. Why not? And let's have a great time. Let's have a party.
Period. I love that.
Oh, also for book two, I do have casting for Moth's mom, Queen Plume, would be
Mhm.
Christine McConnell. And then her uncle that makes a small cameo is going to be Doug Jones, who is like Shape of the Water and all of that stuff. Yeah.
Got you, got you, got you. Okay, see, she's already got.
Yeah.
First of all, your budget is good thing it's an unlimited budget because
Yeah.
those are some
It's
pretty,
out of the world. Yeah.
pretty big
We're
actors.
going we're going wild.
Hey, why not? If you got the money for it, why not? Um, what advice do you have for aspiring writers?
Just to keep going, to write your silly, funny idea. I wrote the Mothman series as self indulgence for me. And I never knew the audience would find, I never knew the community would find the people that have the same chronic illness that really saw themselves in Heather. And it wouldn't have found that if I wouldn't have let myself finish the book. So even if your idea seems so silly, there were times where I'm like, a Mothman romance, this is so goofy. Is anyone going to want this? Don't let yourself bully yourself into not doing the thing that you love.
I love that. And then where can the homies find you?
Hey, homies, you can find me. You can find me at pagelavoie.com, the best place to find out what I'm doing, snippets of books, events. That's all going to be on my mailing list. So go over to the mailing list tab and subscribe. I have a lot of events coming up this year, and I'm super excited about them. And also, that's a good way to stay connected about news related to the Kickstarter as well, which you can find at kickstarter.com and type in Mothman in Love, and that will come up.
Period. Yep, and I will make sure that I put the link to Paige's website and the link to her Kickstarter in the description for the video. All right, Paige Lavoie, everyone. Round of applause. We love her. Thank you
Yay,
so
thank you.
much for being on Booking It with me. I literally can't wait. Congratulations on the
Thank you so
Kickstarter. I
much.
hope that you reach your goal so everybody can get their beautiful Mothman books. And if you guys want any more information about Paige, just go to her website. It is linked in the description. If you guys want to see more of my author interviews, please make sure you rate, review, and subscribe. And that's it. Until next time, I will be booking it.